Going.
It's working now, Meg.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I think I got it.
It's yep. Barb said it's working, Dan.
Okay, I think I got it.
Thank you, Barb.
Thanks, Barb.
Thanks, Lord. You wanna-
We're good? For now, anyway.
Good.
Okay. All good?
Okay, so we are moving into item 5, which is general information and/or action, and that is interviews of candidates for the school board. I want to note to people that we are subject to the governor's order with respect to the wearing of masks. However, the governor's order does allow us during a meeting, if we are speaking, to remove the mask during the time that we're speaking, just to ensure that people can understand what we are saying. So that's why I've taken the mask down. I'd like to welcome everyone on behalf of the board. I think we all are greatly appreciative of the wonderful opportunity to have 15 members of our community want to be a part of this appointment process and who are showing this interest in reaching out to be a part of our district moving forward. So again, we thank all of the applicants for their interest in being a part of the Stevens Point Area Public School District in this special potential board position. I'd like to get just a little housekeeping out of the order. Because of the fact we have so many of us, it's important that if you aren't speaking, that you mute and that you're on mute. Otherwise, we're going to wind up with feedback. It looks like right now everyone recognizes that, but we appreciate you doing that throughout the meeting. The candidates that we have to fill the school board vacancy tonight are Ronald S. Blaha, Jennifer Bushman, Miguel Gabriel C. Campos, Cash Cook, John J. Seakosh, Jack Elzinger, Elizabeth Heimlich, Robert Mansky, Ed Morganroth Jr., Alex Nelson, Carrie Prokop, Lisa Richter, Carolyn Scaccia, Christina Smith, and Jacqueline P. Stroik. And again, we welcome all of you tonight. I'd like to lay out just for you how we're going to move forward with this. I want to note that just as we saw at the beginning of this meeting, we may need to show some patience throughout the meeting because, again, we've never done this remote, and things with technology happen, and we're going to work through whatever, if any glitches occur, and make people aware throughout of any glitches that we're seeing at our end. And just as Barb did, if you're seeing a glitch at your end, please feel free to let us know that. What we have done prior to the meeting, as we have done in the past with respect to appointments, is Carlin did a random draw of names earlier today to set the order of answering questions. And so she pulled out 1 through 15, and we will be having you answer in that order. We will be doing what if any of you are familiar with the League of Women Voters Forums, we will, for example, Elizabeth Heimlich was selected as number 1. So Elizabeth will be answering the first question first, and then we will work through the other 14 candidates. The second question will be answered by the candidate who was selected number 2. So she will answer the second question first, and that's Carolyn Scaccia. So as we progress, you'll all be following the same person that you followed from the beginning. You'll just be in a different order. Unfortunately, because we have, or fortunately, we have 15, but because of that, there will be some of you that will be answering later in the order. But again, it's based on the random draw. I want to just provide you with some upfront information with respect to how we will, and I guess Craig Gerlach, I want to note, Craig Gerlach, once I stop with these preliminary stuff, Craig Gerlach will be doing all of the questioning. So Craig will be the moderator throughout the forum with respect to ensuring who's answering the question, and we'll work through again that order. I want to give you a heads up at the beginning, and we will also talk through this at the end as well, so people are comfortable with respect to what's going to happen with respect to the voting at the end. So the first thing for everyone to be aware is that an individual will have to receive at the end of this, one individual will have to receive 5 votes in order to be appointed to the board. That is a majority vote of the board. And so ultimately, we will continue to take votes so long as we have not had a candidate receive 5 votes. In getting to that situation, how we will be advancing is the top 2 vote getters will advance at all times. Now, the top 2 vote getters may be 2 people, it could be up to 8 people, depending on the vote of the board. So, for example, if we have 8 people receive 1 vote, all 8 people will advance. If we have 1 person receive 5 votes and someone else receive 3 votes, that person would be appointed to the board. If we have someone receive, we have a 4-3-1, then the 2 people, the one who had 4 and the one who had 3 would advance. And we will talk through this as these votes occur. But if we have, for example, a 3-3-2, the 2 people who receive 3 votes would advance. If we have a 3-2-2-1, the person with 3 votes and the 2 people with 2 votes will advance. So in the event of a tie, there is the potential that we would have more people advance. But again, as each vote is tabulated, we will be sharing that out with everyone so everyone is aware of it. It's a little, clearly becomes a bit more complicated with 15 people. But Carlyn will be doing all of the tabulations. Board members who are physically present, we will be filling out a vote tabulation, which will be, we need to put our initials on it as well as the candidate we're voting for. Those will be handed to Carlyn. Board members who are remote part of this meeting will be emailing Carlyn their vote selection, and she will be filling out a tabulation form here for each of them. She will then be tabulating those votes and reading the votes out to us. So again, we'll go through that at the end of the interviews, but we just wanted to give you a sense of how that voting was going to occur at the end of our interviews. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Craig, and he will begin the interview process.
Thank you, Meg, and welcome. And again, as Meg said, thanks to all of you for showing interest in running for school board, or in this case, being appointed to the school board. This is a little bit different for all of us, having 15 candidates of interest. And of course, with the issue of the technology, this is certainly going to be a challenge. So I'm anticipating, however, that it'll go fine. Corey Hirschbrunner is our Assistant Superintendent, Director of Elementary Education. She is going to be timing you. You've got 2 minutes per question, and so we're not rude and having to interrupt by creating a voice. When she hits a minute 45, she's going to put up a card. That's your warning that you've got 15 seconds. And then at 2 minutes, the red's going to go up, and please don't be offended when I see the wet red and I say, time's up, because we've got a lot to get done tonight. That said, we're going to begin. The order of the lot that was pulled today, as Meg talked about, starting number 1 is Elizabeth Heimlich, and then Caroline Scaccia, Carrie Prokop, Jack Ellinger, Robert Mansky, Ed Morgenroth, Lisa Richter, Ronald Blaha, Jacqueline Stroik, Alex Nelson, Jennifer Bushman, Cash Cook, John Sikash, Christina Smith, and Miguel Gabriel Campos. And that'll be the first question, and that goes to,
No, I didn't.
Do you
pardon?
want to repeat that one more time for the
Probably are
board,
gonna
just
need
to
to
get
get these
things
in
in
order.
order?
Yeah,
It's gonna go fast.
We can just grab one.
we were going to print it, but then those up on the
right.
board members not here don't have
He'll-
that.
Wing it.
Just
Give
give
us
us
just a
the
couple
name
seconds.
before you start. That would
Sure,
be
I
great.
will.
All right.
You want me to run through the lot one more time? I certainly can.
That would be helpful.
Okay. Get your pens ready. The first lot draw was Elizabeth Heimlich. The second, Caroline Scaccia. The third, Carrie Prokop. The fourth, Jack Ellinger.
Elzinger.
Excuse me, Jack. The fifth, Robert Mansky. The sixth, Edward Morgenroth. Seventh, Lisa Richter. Eight, Ronald Blaha. 9, Jacqueline Stroik. 10, Alex Nelson. 11, Jennifer Bushman. 12, Cash Cook. 13, John Sikash. 14, Christina Smith. 15, Miguel Gabriel Campos. And for the board, I'll be reading the name ahead of time. I'll give you a few seconds to get your ducks in a row with your paperwork. Okay. Thank you. The first question, Elizabeth. And again, it'll be followed up then by all 15. Please tell us about yourself, your educational background, work experience, and any previous board experience.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure that was working.
I was educated in the Stevens Point School District. I attended UWSP, did not graduate, because while I was attending school, I substituted in the school district here and found that I enjoyed it so much that I just continued on doing that. So I was a special ed assistant for over 30 years, over 20 years in Stevens Point. Before that, I worked at Cholita. So I've had a lot of extensive experience with special needs people. My son attended all the schools. Now my granddaughters are attending Stevens Point schools. So I really have vested interest in it. I was on the board for WEAC. I was a union representative. And then in Janesville, I was working in Janesville, and I was on the Rock Prairie Performing Arts Council. I was the treasurer on that committee. What else did I do? I volunteer in the classroom, what I was before the pandemic hit. And I also was volunteering with the United Way Learn for Life reading program, which is awesome. When I was working at Jackson School, I was on the planning and implementing committee when they started the charter school there, which was really a great school, and unfortunately then it was right before they closed. So that's pretty much my background. I have a lot of Stevens Point education and a lot invested in it.
Thank you. Next will be Caroline Scaccia, and am I pronouncing that right?
You are pronouncing it correctly, so thank you for that.
You bet. Caroline.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline Scaccia. I have 2 children in the district, so I have a vested interest as well. I'm currently from Chicago, and I moved here about 9 years ago. So I've enjoyed the Stevens Point community immensely since then. My career, I've had two careers in my past. So one, being an educator for the Chicago Public Schools. But before that, I was a project manager at an environmental and engineering company. So I switched careers because I come from a family of educators, and I've always been selected to, whenever we had a new employee, to train the new employee, even though that wasn't under my description of work. And I found myself just enjoying it. So I changed careers and became an educator. And I worked for Chicago Public Schools for about 6 years until we moved here and I had my son. And then I had my daughter. So right now I'm a mom and I enjoy being home with them. So I have a lot of time. But in addition to that, I'm also work as a student teaching supervisor at the university here. So I love aspiring new teachers and I love engaging with them on a daily basis. And I also like to volunteer in the classroom and I sub occasionally in the district. So I'm consistently with children and I love it. And I'm always within the schools and I get to see aspiring teachers on a daily basis and talk to them. So that is pretty much what I do on a daily basis, monthly basis. And then I also have served on many boards. So as a Chicago Public School teacher, I served on the Science Fair Committee, which houses 200 participants. So that was my largest committee I ever served on. As far as that, just like Elizabeth, I served on...
Your time is up, Caroline.
Local committees. Okay.
Thank you. Next, Carrie Prokop.
Trying to figure out how to unmute. So my name is Carrie. Hello. I have been married to my husband for 31 years. We have 4 children. We've lived in the Stevens Point area for 21 to 22 years. Let's see here. One of those kids is still in the district. He's at status this year. The others are either in college or through college. I went to Abusa Pacific University in Southern California, got a bachelor's degree, two majors, English and communication. Communication is not mass media, it is public speaking and interpersonal communication. after college, like so many people, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went to a trade school, the Animal Training Institute, and I became an animal behaviorist. And so for 15 years, I trained people how to train their dogs. It's a great job. Let's see here. Some other jobs I have done. I managed a bookstore in town. I worked at a crisis pregnancy center. The last 4 years, I have worked online with Chinese children. They're in China. I'm in my house, and I help them speak English. I do not speak Mandarin, by the way. It's an American platform, and we speak English. I do have board experience. Later on, in one of the questions, I'll talk a little bit more about Nakusa School District. I see that. 15 seconds. In the Nakusa District, I have been part of that school board for 6 years, and for the last 3 years, I have chaired that board. It's a governance council. It is not a school board. We're under the school board.
Thank you, Carrie. Next, we have Jack Elsinger.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm coming to you from the town of Hull, where we've lived for the last 39 years, married, 2 grown children, 3 grandchildren, 5, 4, and almost 2. The 5-year-old is in school right now. The 4-year-old is getting ready for it. I graduated from UWSP in 1975 with majors in English, political science, Broadfield social studies. I then taught for 35 years down in the Plainfield School District. I taught at the middle school level, high school level, and did tutoring in elementary school. As far as board experience, 4 years on the town of Hull as a supervisor, 32 years on the town of Hull Fire Department as a firefighter EMS. I've been on the board of directors for the Isaac Walton League a number of different times, committee chairman, that sort of thing. Now that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Robert Mansky.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Mancy. I am currently the Chief of Staff and Legislative Liaison for Chancellor Gibson at UW-Stevens Point. Originally came to Stevens Point from Seymour. If anyone knows where Seymour is, we're home of the hamburger. I did my undergrad at UWSP, communication major, psychology minor, and graduated, went to UW La Crosse to get my master's in higher ed administration. Moved back to Stevens Point in 2000. I worked in the Student Involvement and Employment Office, where I was originally hired to work with student employment, leadership, volunteerism, and I worked with a work study program called America Reads, where we had students, college students going into the elementary schools and helping students to read. I have 4 kids. 3 of them are currently in the district, and 1 is currently attending UWSP. At UWSP, I am the Chief of Staff. I'm one of the members of the Chancellor Senior Leadership Team. I work as the primary administrator and advisor for the Chancellor. I work with student success and recruitment and retention. I have budget authority and review. And I work as legislative liaison. I work with our state and federal legislators to help advocate for the university. I'm also the community representative of the Chancellor on many boards and everything. As far as board experience, I've not been on the Stevens Point Public School Board, but I have served as 9 years as the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin Board, past president. I was the founder and charter member of the Rotary Club of Greater Portage County, past president. For 16 years, I was part of that group, still am. I was part of the UWSP Common Council, which is the shared governance group for UW-Stevens Point. I've been there for 14 years. And then on a number of various other boards, Portage County Business Council, Synergy, and United Way. That's me in less than 2 minutes.
Thank you. Next, we have Ed Morganroth.
Good evening, everybody.
My name's Ed Morganroth. I've lived in Plover here with my family for 25 years. I'm married. We've got 2 kids who went through the Stevens Point District. We think successfully, but we're biased, but went through K through 12. As far as my career, I have been, for the last 25 years, I've been with Nationwide, which is an insurance and financial services company. Educationally, I got my bachelor's degree in finance from Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, and then went on for my MBA at the University of Illinois in Urbana. As far as board experience, I have had the privilege of serving on this board 2 different times, once from 2007 to 2010, and then again for about, I'll say 8 months last year, the end of, let's say, September 2019 to maybe April 2020. I've also got, in terms of board experience, I was on the board of a very small subsidiary of our Nationwide company. And a long time ago, when I first got here, I served for a year on the Portage County Historical Society board. That's me.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lisa Richter.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Lisa Richter. I am originally from the Milwaukee area, but I moved to Stevens Point when I came to college at UWSP. And I got my bachelor's degree and my master's degree there in communication sciences and disorders. So I am a speech and language pathologist, and I work in education. I've been in education for 14 years. I currently am employed with the school district of Wapaka, but I previously have worked for the Stevens Point School District. I worked for Stevens Point School District for, I think, 6 years, and I have lived collectively in Stevens Point for 18 years, so almost 2 decades. I am a city girl at heart. I never thought I would move north, but I've enjoyed it. I met my husband here. We've been married for 11 years. We have 2 beautiful girls. They're 8 and 10. My daughters attend Bannock Elementary, so go Bulldogs. And I previously worked at McKinley Center, so I'm a Bobcat kind of in nature too. I enjoy volunteering in the community. I am a member of the Stevens Point Junior Women's Club here in town. I am the chair for Tinsel Trail. It's a very large vendor event held at the Holiday Inn every year, and I am the chair to organize that. I very much enjoy being a part of this community and being a community stakeholder. I have a very invested interest in the Stevens Point School District and the education of our youth. And I, as far as previous board experience, when I was in college, I was a member of the Gamma Phi Delta sorority, and I held a leadership position with that organization. And just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Thank you, Lisa. Next is Ronald Blaha.
Okay. I will discuss my educational background and work experience in question 2. With previous board experience, I've been involved with 9 boards, 7 local, 1 state, 1 national, with 59 years of service. That averages 6.6 years per board. I was also a very active member with the association I've had with the 9 boards. I never joined a board for the benefit of my resume. I always had great support and encouragement from my boss to be involved with community and business action groups. For 3 years, I worked with the board of the Humane Society of Portage County as their executive director. 12 years as president and treasurer of Blaha Resources, which did business as Play and Learn. It was an educational resource center for teachers, parents, and homeschoolers. 6 years involved with the Stevens Point Association of Downtown Businesses, 5 years as their president. We became a Wisconsin Main Street community with our first attempt. 4 years on the board of the local Red Cross, 6 years associated with the United Way of Portage County's board, 7 years with the Junior Achievement Board. I was president for 1 year. 13 years as a member of the Stevens Point Youth Baseball Association. I was president for 5 years. 6 years of board membership with a national group called GATF Continuous Improvement Network, which was involved with continuous improvement efforts in the printing industry. I was president with that group for 2 years. And then I was 2 years with the Wisconsin Small Business Development Center Advisory Board. And that's my board experience.
Thank you, Ron. Next, Jacqueline Stroik.
Hi, thank you. I'm Jackie. I grew up in Stevens Point. This is the only place I've lived. I am married and I have 3 children, 2 that are grown and moved away. They went through the Stevens Point School District in the 1990s and early 2000s, and I have a son who is 16 and goes to SPASH. My son is on the autism spectrum, so I have gone through the process from early childhood on as a parent, going through the special education process or system. I worked at Century Insurance for 35 years, the last about 21 of those years in IT as a programmer and database administrator, data engineer, and I retired from Century. It'll be 2 years on April 1st. About 6 years ago, I decided that I wanted to change careers, so I started taking classes at the university, and I graduated in December with a bachelor's degree in social work. I have never been on a board. I haven't really been too involved with community organizations. I would like to change that now. I've recently joined the Citizens Climate Lobby Group, and I joined the League of Women Voters, and trying to get more involved.
Thank you, Jackie. And next, Alex Nelson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. I grew up in the Chicago area. I went to school at Iowa State. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Engineering. And I currently hold project management professional certification. Career-wise, I worked for Pearson Education for about 9 years as a digital producer. So that essentially boiled down to a lot of project management and vendor management. I moved to Stevens Point with my family in about 2016, and I've been a part of Skyward's project management group since that time. I'm currently a team manager there. As for prior board experience, fairly limited, but in 2018, I was part of the Elementary Instructional Day Increase Task Force for the Stevens Point School District. And then I also participated in a few early meetings related to the 2019 referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And next, Jennifer Bushman.
Hi, everyone. Honored to be with all of you tonight. My name is Jennifer Bushman. I am a mother of 3 elementary school children in the district, and one that keeps reminding me that she's a soon-to-be middle schooler. I reside in Stevens Point. I moved here from Southern California approximately 10 years ago. That was a decision that many close to me questioned, but I must say I absolutely love living here. I am a first-generation college graduate. I'm proudly born from an immigrant mother. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Communication that I received from San Diego State University and a Master of Arts in Speech Communication from California State University, Fullerton. I am currently employed at Anthem Health Insurance. I work as a Global Talent Strategy Director, so I'm aligned to support talent strategy for business units across the enterprise with a primary focus on end-to-end talent management, so learning and leadership development, organizational development, and leading inclusion and diversity efforts. My prior work experience includes being employed at 2 California universities, one public and one private, as an adjunct instructor where I worked for 5 years teaching upper and lower division communication courses and coaching the speech and debate team. Additionally, I've worked in the learning and leadership development space across many sectors, so financial services, insurance, and health. My community involvement includes serving a 3rd term as president of the Stevens Point Junior Women's Club that Lisa referenced earlier. My role as president ends in 2 months, and for anyone unfamiliar with the Junior Women's Club, it's a volunteer organization that's dedicated to community improvement through service. I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to learning more about everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, Cash Cook.
Good evening. My name is Cash Cook. I'm originally from West Central Wisconsin. In 2000, I needed a reset, so I moved out to Wyoming, where I eventually met my wife and my 2 stepkids. We moved back here in 2005 to start employment with Lowe's, seeing that that's who we were working with at the time out in Wyoming. In 2006, while still working for Lowe's, I started working for FedEx Freight, and pretty much since that time I've continuously worked 2 jobs, day in and day out. In 2010, my wife told me I should go back to school, so I finished up my degree at UWSP in Broadfield Social Sciences, and then started working 2 jobs again. And the only reason I've done that is I've always told myself it's beneficial to make sure there's a roof over our head, clothes on our back, and food on the table. I don't have any board experience. This was just an opportunity that presented itself. I have a new granddaughter, and I felt this might be a way to get my foot in the door to help better her life as she moves forward through the Stevens Point School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Cash. Next, John Sekosh.
Good evening, everyone. I am a lifelong resident of the Stevens Point area. I'm a 4th generation on the property my great-grandfather settled outside of Stevens Point as an immigrant. I attended Stevens Point District Local Schools, and I am a graduate of Pacheli High School. I have 2 degrees, Bachelor of Science degrees from UWSP, and I'm also a graduate of Leadership Institute of Nassau, Bahamas. I'm married with 3 children. I started my business career as a partner in our family-owned business and have since owned several businesses, including a business consulting firm. I'm currently a co-owner of a land management company in central Wisconsin. In addition, I work as a strategic planner for the Wisconsin Potato and Vegetable Growers Association and for Heartland Farms. I've been bivocational all my adult life, working in business and in education simultaneously. I served as the founding school administrator and principal for a parochial K-12 school for 15 years, as well as being the curriculum director. I also had teaching responsibility as well. In addition to my education and business background, my other experiences, what may be relevant, are I was a domestic abuse program director, a director for a nonprofit volunteer program with 12 departments, a leadership training facilitator, and a member of a local Toastmasters speaking club. I've served on several boards, both business and nonprofit organizations. Presently, I do not hold any positions on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next is Christina Smith.
Hello, my name is Christina Smith. I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and came to UWSP to pursue my bachelor's degree in mathematics and a minor in computer information systems. I work for AIG. I've had a variety of roles over the course of being there. I've been in actuarial field, I did business intelligence, product management, and I'm currently the business analytics manager. I have a team that reports under me, and we do a lot of data mining, data cleaning. We use data to make decisions, we create metrics, basically anything that has to do with bringing information together, organizing it, presenting it, and making recommendations based on what we see going on with our books of business. I handle both the travel insurance and our accident and health portfolios. In addition to working at AIG, I am also a mother of 2 beautiful daughters. One is a 5th grader at Roosevelt Elementary School, and the other will be entering 4K next year. So being a parent has definitely changed our outlook on things, and it's become so important to us to be able to make sure that every child gets success. Additionally, my husband is a teacher at SPASH, So education is extremely important to us in our household, as well as an employer, having strong workforce to be able to bring in new ideas and new information. As far as previous board experience, I've served on several boards at work, several community boards, fundraising committees, as well as being the president of our ERG. It's called Employee Relations Group for the young professionals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. And the last person for this first question is Miguel Gabriel Campos.
Well, thank you all for entertaining us all tonight. I'm Miguel Gabriel Campos. Since this is a time-sensitive with all the questions and candidates, you can call me Miguel if you prefer. I'll cut off a second for each one of those introductions. But I am a UWSP honors graduate. I studied sociology and international studies with emphasis in social entrepreneurship and foreign economics. I currently am an insurance salesman through Berkshire Hathaway. I handle over about 1,600 customers, all who now have my personal cell phone due to COVID and the work from home model that we're all going through. And I'm also a small business owner here with a couple of different partners in the real estate, local real estate and rental market here. I have not served on any boards per se. I tend to be the guy that a lot of board people come to and ask for advice in my experience. And I do a lot of local volunteering. Originally from Texas, but lived most of my life in the Wausau area. So I was heavily involved with my dad in the Lions Club and the Shriners, the Salvation Army, the YMCA. And here in Stevens Point, I spent a lot of time with the YMCA. I have two younger children, both 5 and 9 years old, going on 10 and 20 it seems. I spent a lot of time with their sports, helping out at the YMCA, volunteering through the local Salvation Army. And I am a grants committee member with the local community foundation, if you are familiar with that. So that's been a pleasure to be a part of that board to help local businesses get access to funds, especially during this COVID crisis. So that's me in a nutshell. I won't take any more of your time.
Thank you, Miguel. Miguel, when you were speaking, there was, I could hear you, but there was some background noise as it relates to
Crackling or
some
something.
crackling. So I don't know if there's a wire.
Is there still crackling as I'm talking?
Not now, no. Now there is. Now there is.
Okay, I'll see if I can get a different microphone.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Okay, we're going to move on to the second question. And we are going to begin with Caroline Scaccia. And the question is, what unique value will you bring as a member of the school board?
Okay. The unique value I will bring as a school board member is that I will be committed and dedicated. I have the time to commit and dedicate to this placement. And I feel that my educational background, having a master's in education and being a former Chicago public school teacher in an urban area on the southwest side of Chicago, also benefits me at being in the trenches of the educational system. I'm familiar with how schools function. I'm familiar with teachers. I relate to them. I think as a stakeholder in the community, that benefits knowing and being part of the making these decisions, being able to know what teachers go through on a daily basis. So I think that adds value. In addition, my past experience as a project manager helps me with understanding budgeting, problem solving, which I have a very creative mind, I've been told. And when you're creative, you're a good problem solver. So I think that will also add value as a member and a contributing member to the board. And that's it. I'm going to cut it short because I felt like I went a little long last time.
It's all good. Thank you, Carrie. Caroline, excuse me. Next is Carrie Prokop. Ahead of myself there.
I was like, did you just tell me, Carrie?
I was excited I got Seacosh right. Okay, next, Carrie Prokop.
I believe that I have some unique qualities because with my 4 kids, I have worked with the special education department, I have worked with the gifted department, and I have a regular ed students as well. And so I'm not saying that I'm an expert in anything. I have a very basic understanding of those communities of people, but I've gotten to work with lots of different people in the district. My kids, I have also had them public schools, distance charter schools, homeschool, and now of course pandemic school. I have ties to each of those communities of people, and to a certain degree understand those mindsets. And so I think that a unique value that I would bring is that I would be able to be a good communicator with some of those communities and work well with them, and hopefully communicate also with the board to help them understand those people do. That's that. That's it.
Greg, could you
Thanks,
say
you,
something
Carrie.
about, can you say something about our connection?
Your connection,
Got half of it.
your connection tends to go in and out a little bit. Again, I can hear you, but it's a little challenging at times. It goes louder and then softer to some degree. Okay, thank you, Carrie. Next is Jack Elsinger.
Thanks again. My primary emphasis, if I got onto the board, is that I would use my time, because I'm retired, to get throughout the school district and really familiarize myself with the district. As I pointed out, I have 35 years of teaching experience, elementary, middle school, and high school. So I have a good grasp of how a school should run, and I'm a good listener. And as I said, with the time that I have, my intention would be to get out there and talk to as many people as I can, from the custodians to the cooks, all the way up to the superintendent and everything in between, because I think it's extremely important to form your decisions by what you actually see, rather sometimes than just what you think you've heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Next is Robert Mansky.
For me, I think my uniqueness is a combination of 3 primary components. My experience of being an engaged parent of 4 children in the district, my experience with the management and understanding of a complex educational system, and then some personal attributes and values. With the district, being an engaged parent, I have engaged with the teachers, staff, administrators to identify strategies and to help my kids be successful. I understand the learning environment from a parent's perspective, and then I understand the underlying resources in the school and the community. Regarding the complex educational system, as a chief of staff, my job encompasses every aspect of the university and many aspects of the community. Teaching, administration, budget, facilities, enrollment, and marketing, those are things that come through my desk every day. I interact with individuals of all backgrounds, both on and off campus. I participate in shared governance activities. My legislative work takes me to Madison. And I think those skills are transferable to the K-12 environment. I'm not saying that they are directly transferable, but I feel like they are a good connection. Personally, I'm collaborative, I'm ethical, I'm approachable. I consider myself a bridge builder. I'm a lifelong learner. I earned my PhD in educational leadership while working full-time. I'm open-minded. I'm a good resource. I pride myself on being a good resource. I'm a bridge builder, and I'm hardworking. Overall, I think those combined, that makes me an individual who is passionate for education. I have experience with educational administration and leadership, and a personal connection to the district as a parent.
Thank you, Rob. Next, Ed Morganroth.
Thanks. I guess some of the things I would say, I don't know if make me unique, but would serve me well is I've got 5 years of experience on the Stevens Point board, school board, over 2 different time periods, as I mentioned, and working with different boards, some high functioning, high performing, some not much, some not so much. and different superintendents. And in addition to that, I've got 5 years of on the board committees as a citizen member, where I've learned some of the ropes and again had exposure to district issues and board members and superintendents and principals, et cetera. I also have significant work experience in the financial area, budgeting, forecasting, financial analysis, et cetera, which always is important in these tight times. Lastly, I have I think a pretty good understanding and an appreciation of the fact that the district deals with 5 or 6 major constituencies, and they all need to be listened to, and they all have valid concerns and valid priorities, and I think that's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next is Lisa Richter. Ed, could you mute, please? Thank you.
I feel that a unique value that I will bring to the school board is that, well, of course, being an educator for 14 years, I'm passionate about education. I feel very strongly that the academic, social, and emotional and vocational development of our youth is incredibly important to consider when we look at them today being youngsters and then into tomorrow in the future that they'll be the adults. I am an invested member of this community, having been living here for almost 2 decades. And I feel the experience that I have working for the Stevens Point Area School District in the past kind of gives me a look into the inner workings of the district. I'm very familiar with many of my former colleagues, and I still communicate with them often. I hear a lot about the benefits and the great things about our education system here in Stevens Point. I still am very familiar with the inner workings of the district, and I feel very strongly that being a member of the school board is an important way to continue to make a difference for the youth in our community.
Thank you, Lisa. Next is Ronald Blaha.
Well, my unique value, I'm a very organized individual who puts his heart and soul into the necessary work to fulfill an organization's needs and activities with the ability to analyze and research the ways and means of an issue to a problem. My educational background, I graduated from St. Norbert College with a business administration degree, majoring in marketing. I took 2 master degree courses in engineering management at Pittsburgh State University and 3 communication graduate courses at UW-Stevens Point. I've taken quality control courses at the Milwaukee School of Engineering, which helped me to become a certified quality engineer with the American Society for Quality. I've attended over 100 classes and conferences involving quality statistics, graphic arts, safety, manufacturing, supervision, training, labor relations, customer service, leadership development, and accounting, to name a few. I've initiated career development sessions at plants in St. Louis, Missouri, Independence, Kansas, Poughkeepsie, New York, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which help plant employees, I call them associates, develop and improve their skills and provide opportunities for their advancement. As far as work experience, I have had 38 years involved with quality control and continuous improvement activities as a manager and project leader, helping companies to improve their products and processes. Company executives ask me to address and fix problems and issues that occurred at company and corporate levels. Improvements have significant success in plant productivity, process and product improvements, increased sales, and profitability. I finished my career with the Humane Society of Portage County as the executive director, which I believe was God-sent, having the opportunity to be associated with such a fine group of animal lovers and those who cared for the animals. A little bit about personal background. I've been married 48 years to Janet. She was also a teacher for 29 years. And then we opened up the shop, Play and Learn, which was an educational resource center for teachers, parents, and
And your
homeschoolers.
time is up, Ron.
Okay.
Thank you. Next, Jacqueline Stroik.
I think one of the strengths that I bring to this role is that I approach problem solving, with my many years of programming background, I approach problem solving with a very logical and fact-oriented basis. But I think my real strength coming into this would be that I'm representative of a typical parent. So not from an administrative or a teacher standpoint, but from a parent standpoint. Having had children come through the system, I had a child who was a really high achiever, one who was really struggled through school, one who's gone through the special education processes, and is also an exceptional achiever academically. But through all of this, I've at some times been more engaged than others. I understand the pressures that parents face that keep them from being engaged at times, which I think is an issue for students and the district. And I think that I can bring that typical parent who has struggled and had successes and struggles with my children through the school system.
Thank you, Jackie. Next is Alex Nelson.
Thanks. I have worked in education-adjacent fields for the past 14 years. I've worked with a lot of educators and a lot of administrators in that time. Even though I myself am not an educator, I place a tremendous value in public education. I have 3 elementary age children who attend the district. And even though I'm relatively new to the area, I really value the community that's here. And I think that part of having a strong community is having strong schools. I recognize that the school board supports the district at large, and that needs to be a strong partnership if we're going to continue to achieve positive outcomes. Being on some of those committees kind of helped me start to see some of the things that the district is concerned with and looking at towards the future, and I appreciate kind of that vision and want to make sure that we continue to move in those directions. So thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Next is Jennifer Bushman.
So I am very passionate about education. I'm very passionate about service. I have a vested interest in the success of our school and the success in the district, given that I have 3 young children enrolled in the district. My unique value includes experience working across diverse groups with varied interests and experience, most notable in my day-to-day professional life. I work in a highly matrixed, a very fast-paced environment, often with competing priorities and people with differences in opinions. And so I'm able to work really well in that environment. Moreover, I'm a quick study, so it doesn't take me long to get up to speed. In addition, I feel like I'm able to offer a diverse lens as it relates to my experience raising ethnically diverse children in this district. My teaching experience in the private and public university space at the largest university system in the country, I feel like offers a unique lens. And my tenure working across multiple industries in the corporate arena, mostly centered on learning and leadership development and talent management. I've also served as chief of staff in a previous role, managing a multi-million-dollar budget for a staff of over 120, so I have budgetary experience too. My skill set, I believe, is really having a strong strategic experience. I'm very passionate around work centered on this. I have an inclusive leadership style where I'm always seeking input from others and collaborative skills that I feel I can use to enable the ongoing success and meaningful work of the school board.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next is Cash Cook.
I think the unique value I have is I'm a quiet, hardworking individual. It's amazing how in that role, everybody seems to come to me to get answers or just want to share ideas with me. I've never really went out of my way to, associate at times, but I have this vibe about me that makes it comfortable for everybody to come to me and discuss everything from, life to whatever is on their mind at that moment. I'm just committed to the task that's at hand, and that's how I feel about like the opportunity with this position that's open, is that it's a new task where I could learn and work to better the district as I see it.
Thank you, Cash. Next is John Sikash.
I wanted to commend you for getting my name right. I assume maybe you had some coaching, because I've heard all kinds of pronunciation of that.
I did get some coaching.
Pardon?
I did get some coaching, yes.
Yeah, it's one you don't want to jump off on. In response to question number 2 here, I believe the value that I bring as a board member would be my joint experience in both business and education that gives me a unique perspective to appreciate and understand both disciplines. This includes the business experience to understand administrative issues and the educational experience to appreciate students, parents, and the teaching staff. As a school administrator, I was involved in policy formation and implementation. This involved working with parents, teaching staff, community business leaders. My curriculum development experience will help me understand the administrator's role and decisions in that regard. My teaching background will allow me to appreciate the perspective of the teacher and student alike. I'm known as a problem solver, a good mediator, and in addition, I do well in multitasking and public speaking. Thank you again.
Thank you, John. Next is Christina Smith.
Hi. The value that I think I bring to the board has to do with my balanced and information-based decision-making. As being a manager in a very large organization, we have pretty complex budgets. So my ability to not only help establish the budget, but also to create goals and metrics along the way so that we can track our progress towards whatever goals we're trying to set, whether they be profitability-based or production-based, or even being able to take in a whole lot of different information. The way I tend to learn is I will take on whatever information somebody gives me, just glob it on, throw more at me, and I'll work through it, synthesize it, and then be able to organize it, come up with a good rationale and decision-making process, and then be able to utilize that information to make recommendations and move forward. And I just think that maybe it's how I approach things, or having a background in mathematics, just having a bunch of ability to put together the information, I think is very helpful. And then also with being a parent, you generally have to take this information and explain it in a way that's understandable to a lot of different types of people. And I have done meetings for large companies, I've done meetings for clients, I've done meetings for lots and lots of different skill sets, and to be able to take that information and explain it in a way that makes sense, I think is really valuable to not just a company, but just anything, a school board, education, just a lot of different avenues. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Next is Miguel Campos.
All right, I switched out my earphones. Are you able to hear me clearly this time? All right, excellent. My unique value that I think I would bring to the school board is my connectivity to the community. Given my diverse background, being a person of color and having 2 ethnic children, it has put me in a position where I've always, and being not from the local area originally, I've always had to find different outlets to connect myself to the community. And given my age, I'm kind of in the middle of the older generation and the younger generation, so I've found myself going to multiple areas for multiple different scenarios which to learn about the community of which I'm in. When I came to UWSP, I didn't have any friends here, I didn't have any acquaintances, anything like that. So I found my place in UWSP through different clubs and everything like that. When I graduated, I only have had one career for the past 11 years when graduating, so I did a lot of volunteering and I worked with a lot of local businesses, a lot of local community members, and it put me in charge with, like through Create Portage County, I got to lead a lot of young entrepreneurs, connected to me a lot of developers in the IT world, both young and old, and I met a lot of different people that way. And the same thing with volunteerism. I got to meet a lot of different people and a lot of different, but from a lot of different cultural backgrounds, a lot of different diversity in a lot of the people I met. And I think it gives me a unique perspective when if I'm on a board situation, I'm able to better understand maybe a lot of different perspectives that maybe some people don't have access to, where I do have access to. And I've done that ever since I was a little kid. Coming from Texas, I was always in a situation where I needed to find different outlets. And when I look at, on a Friday night, I have friends coming together here, and
I lost him.
Oh, we just lost him, Miguel.
Sure he can't hear you, but. How much time did he have left?
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Oh.
Okay, and we are going to move on. The last person is Elizabeth Heimlich.
It's back there.
Elizabeth?
I'm sorry, I was talking and I hadn't unmuted myself. I just have to say that I really don't envy you at all. Your decision will be tough. There's some really good candidates here tonight. I think that money, excuse me? Oh, I thought someone said something. My main unique value that drives some people crazy, but is something that I can't really control, is that I have a positive outlook and a lot of optimism. It's like sometimes people really call me a Pollyanna or whatever, but I truly believe that that people are good and that working together we can accomplish a lot. And I think that kids really benefit from that. And I've been an advocate for kids my whole career, and I really enjoy working with the children, and I really think that they need the positivity of a good role model, and they just need positive influences. So that's it for me, and good luck.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Miguel, are you back with us?
I am.
Okay.
Wi-Fi connection just dropped. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Your time was just about up anyway.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the third question. How has your background and experience prepared you to be effective in an environment that holds diversity, equity, and inclusion as core to our mission and values? And we're going to begin this round with Carrie Prokop.
Right. As I've said, I have been on a governance council for a school for the last 6 years. I believe that the primary purpose of a school and a school district is to educate children. And I also know that all children have basic needs that need to be met before they can even start that learning process. I think that that perspective lends itself to supporting every individual and their unique needs. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carrie. Next is Jack Elsinger.
Okay, as I pointed out, I have 35 years of experience in all three different levels of education. And I guess maybe the most important thing for you to hear from me is my philosophy about diversity and that sort of thing. And what I've learned in all those years is that you have to accept people as they come to you as human beings. If you're genuine, if the students know that you take them as they are, then they're willing to let you help them succeed in what they want to do. But really the key is accepting them first. And if that's genuine, then you will do very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Next is Rob Mansky.
For me, first and foremost, it's recognition personally that as a white heterosexual male, I come from a privileged background. I understand that my perspective and experiences are shaped by my privilege. As a professional, I work at an institution that has a similar message to Stevens Point Public School District to support equity and inclusion. We place that as the value at the core of our mission, and we implement programs that I'm a part of to educate our faculty, staff, and students about equity and inclusion. For example, I've participated in the Safe Zone training for our LGBTQ students. I've worked directly with committees that support our equity goals, like the Gender Sexuality Alliance, the Differing Abilities Council, and the Diversity Council. Most recently, I've worked with the Native American Burial Ground Committee, campus and community partnership that's helped to recognize, put up a temporary memorial, learning about the burial ground that's on our campus, expanding that to working with outreach to the tribal leaders of our tribal nations to help partner and recruit our Native students and help them become successful at UWSP. I would translate that over to work as a board member of Stevens Point School District. My primary role when it comes to diversity and equity is to listen and learn and provide resources to help people be successful.
Thank you, Rob. Next is Ed Morganroth.
Hi. Like I think everyone else there, I do support theory and practice, diversity and inclusion, and the issue of equity in employment and in learning opportunities, et cetera. Nationwide, my former company, actually headquartered in Columbus, Ohio, but with offices all over the country, and they have a very diverse workforce. And over my time there, I worked with a diverse group of people, and that's the way it should be. And I think it's important to realize in this district that we do have a diverse population, and we do have a significant portion of the community and of the students are people of color, including a large number of Hmong community members, and that when the school district makes a policy or implements a program that it needs to work for everybody, and specific efforts need to be looked at to see that it does work for all the community, and not just the majority. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next is Lisa Richter.
I'm an inclusive person by nature, and I enjoy collaborating with others. A large part of my professional role as a speech and language pathologist is helping others communicate effectively and in all environments, whether it's educational, home, or community. And on a daily basis, I'm collaborating with my teaching colleagues, and a large part of my role is also having patience and being an active listener, taking in information and helping to problem solve for all of my students. I believe that it's important to provide equitable opportunities for all of my students. It's important that I recognize that there are differences in each and every one of them. And I agree, like previous candidates have said, that you need to take students and people where they are at. I believe that everyone deserves a voice and to be heard. And in order to achieve collective efficacy as a group, groups working together must believe through united efforts that they can produce intended efforts or produce intended results and overcome challenges. A big part of what I do for my students is helping them overcome difficulties communicating. And I feel like my previous experience working for many years and helping those to better their communication, I feel I can bring some of those qualities to this board. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Next is Ron Blaha.
Well, I'm a team player who has worked with a diverse group of individuals. I have been associated with manufacturing employees, who I like to call associates, volunteers, boisterous coaches, animal lovers, student athletes, coaching a lot of girls and boys teams, entrepreneurs, business professionals, CEOs, managers, workers, etc., athletes, military personnel, all ranks, government and civic individuals, teachers, vendors, suppliers, retail entrepreneurs, and rental apartment tenants, to name a few. I recommended and lobbied for a woman to become a manufacturing supervisor, and she became the first woman in our company to supervise a manufacturing department. She then selected another woman to be her assistant supervisor. This was in a very male-dominated company. My wife and I have been invited to and attended a 40th anniversary party for a male couple. We were also invited to and attended an African-American formal dinner dance with a group called the King's Club. I'm an avid reader, especially during my retirement years, having a special interest in biographies, autobiographies, and history. I have read books like Roots by Alex Haley and Am I Not a Man?, The Dred Scott Story by Mark Shurtleff, along with many others to help me better understand the issues with race relations. Also, I've just completed reading Population 1 by Tyler McNamara, who wrote about his autism and his will to succeed. I associate with people based on their individuality, not on their ethnicity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Next is Jackie Stroik.
Actually, this was my favorite question on the sheet. As I stated earlier, I just graduated in December from UWSP with a bachelor's degree in social work, and threaded throughout the whole curricula were the concepts of diversity and cultural humility and inclusion. That's part of the social work profession. And as part of my capstone, I did a 6-month internship at Inclusa, which is an organization in Stevens Point that supports people who are Medicaid eligible, so they are, either are lower income or have a physical or developmental or emotional disability. And I helped to support individuals in those demographics and with those challenges throughout my internship. I really believe that we need to understand and value the differences that different people from different demographic groups bring, and how that informs their worldview and their perspective and their experience. We have to note that their experience is valid and it is valuable, and we should actually invite it. We should invite diversity into our organizations and into our institutions that will help us to shape better policies and better organizations that will serve everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Next is Alex Nelson.
I've been fortunate in my career that I've been able to work with a lot of people, both across the country and internationally. People with different backgrounds and very different personalities. As a project manager, a key part of my role is bringing people together in order to achieve common goals. That responsibility requires strong communication, listening to and actually hearing what somebody has to say, finding a way to share information and present ideas in a way that other people are going to understand. So I do my best to listen to what people say to me and try to take the time to think through my responses rationally and respectfully, and ensure that I am communicating with the people that are speaking with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Next is Jennifer Bushman.
So thank you for this question. Growing up with a mother who came to this country knowing very little English, I watched her work hard and struggle to learn to speak English and start her life over in the United States. And that's one reason I'm very passionate and care deeply about work in the inclusion and diversity space, because I have felt and witnessed it firsthand, the struggles in the absence of equity and inclusion. I recall moving to Stevens Point from Southern California 10 years ago and quickly recognized the lack of diversity. I feel we have moved the needle since then. As an Asian American living in central Wisconsin, I recognize the opportunity we have to share as it relates to more diversity and the work that we have to do in this space. The school board's mission and values are very much aligned to the work that I do in my professional space. Diversity is one of Anthem's 5 core values. And as a leader at Anthem, I work to build upon that strong foundation of inclusion and diversity. And I sincerely believe that we can all live this value if we foster a trusting and inclusive environment, if we champion diversity, if we work together to cultivate a space that represents the views and the experiences of the community members. And so these values are very much core to who I am, and I am able and confident to work in an environment that holds diversity, equity, and inclusion as its core mission.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next is Cash Cook. Cash?
Yep, sorry about that. I guess in my work life, you know, I haven't had to deal with like the diversity or inclusion because it's just been strictly, you know, white males that I've worked with. But what I've tried to do is I've tried to hold everybody on an equal plane and kind of base everything off the golden rule and looked at it from a standpoint of, you know, what can I learn from you? What can you learn from me? And what can we do to make each other better in the process? And I feel that's what we need to look forward to, is that, you know, everybody has a different story coming into the situation. What can we take out of it? What can we learn from it? And what can we do to make it better, not only for the individual, but for the people on the other side hearing the story?
Thank you, Cash. Next is John Sikosh.
First, allow me to address the question. It's phrased very well. As a strategic planner, I greatly appreciate the need for and the importance of an organization having missions and values in other aspects of strategic planning. These standards are what drives our actions and our decisions. They're absolutely necessary for every activity of the organization, and I'm pleased that the board has gone through extensive efforts to identify and implement them. Now, as far as my personal answer here, my educational background in working with parents, community leaders, business people, and students have given me the experience in working with a diverse group of people as well as a diverse ideas to come to a satisfactory conclusion. In my role as an abuse program facilitator, people came to me with all kinds of issues needing resolutions. These participants counted on me to be fair, equitable, regardless of their background, race, color, or creed. Their confidence in me as a peacemaker was essential to the success of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next is Christina Smith.
Hello, and I had interviewed previously for one of the school board openings, and this question hadn't been on the question list last time. So again, I was really pleasantly surprised to see it show up this time because it is so important for this question to be addressed. Throughout my career at AIG, I've been a safe space, not like I broadcast myself a safe space, but I have been a safe space. People come into my office, close the door, and they know as soon as that door closes, we can talk about anything, whether it's diversity, inclusion, a bad day, need a place to cry, whatever it is. Life's hard. Life's hard for everybody, and sometimes you just need that space to sit, have somebody listen, and hear you. And I've always been that person to the best of my ability. That said, I am part of a large multinational corporation. I interact daily with not just people in the US, but people throughout the world. So what I've seen firsthand is how important diversity and inclusion are in our company to make our decisions, to hear all sides, and to make sure everybody has a voice. That said, we've made good strides on diversity and inclusion, but we have so much yet to accomplish on equity, and that's definitely something that needs to be addressed and pushed forward as much as possible. We have a whole department within our company on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as they keep continuing to make steps and trainings, I listen and I do whatever is necessary to make sure that we move forward on those things.
Thank you, Christina. Next is Miguel Campos.
Thank you. As a person of color myself with a Hispanic background, I grew up with a Hispanic father and a Native American mother. And as I said earlier, coming from Texas in the late 80s, early 90s to Wisconsin, there was not a lot of culture in the Wausau area. I was probably one of the first cultural people to come to the area. So the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion to me is extremely personal. Had something like this existed when I was younger, may have had a profound effect on how I experienced the school system as I grew up. So I fundamentally, this is something that I hold dear to myself, and I'm very excited to see that this is a major mission for the Stevens Point School District. Diversity, equity, and inclusion in college is that adopting those principles in college when I went through college was something that actually helped me get through college through the different scholarships and grant programs that helped underprivileged individuals, people of color, people of different ethnicities and sexual orientation, among some of the things. I definitely, if I am part of the board, or any board for that matter, this is something that I would strive to uphold as probably one of my top priorities. I think as the world continues to change and we all fundamentally and just naturally become more diverse, as we see more and more people moving globally, I think this is something that becomes intrinsically more important to everybody, because you're going to see diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether or not it is something that other people around us do adopt. It is something that is naturally occurring and fundamental to how people grow up, and it affects everything, both psychologically and socially, and it is that reason why I think it's extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Next is Elizabeth Heimlich.
Hello again. My family raised me in a very diverse environment. I have an adopted brother who's Black. We moved to the Stevens Point School District to Stevens Point area when I was 10 and he was 6. And that was in 1968. I don't believe there were more than 5 people of color in this community at that time. So we were thrown into it. It was difficult. And I even remember it vividly as a 10-year-old because it was a totally different environment. Then when I was working, and this is more of the special needs inclusion, I started out in a multiply handicapped classroom where the kids were in one classroom all day long. We didn't leave for anything. We didn't leave for lunch, gym, art. We had nothing. And they were lovely kids, but they were considered multiply handicapped, and they stay in that room and you just take care of them. So my career showed the progression. And when I left the Stevens Point School District to move to Janesville, I was at Jackson, and that was shortly after Bannock was built. This was the most inspiring time of my life, because Bannock took all of our kids, and we only had about 50 fifth graders, and that included all the special needs kids. That included the NOVA kids. It included the learning disabled kids. So we did everything together. All the fifth graders were all together for everything. It was just wonderful. And I wish that we could do that for everything, but it's not, I don't think, feasible because you have too many numbers. But at that time, it worked lovely. It was just beautiful. So I saw the progression of inclusion and diversity growing in the classrooms and in the school district, and it's been marvelous.
And your time is up. Perfect.
I talked that long.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And the last person on this question is Caroline Scaccia.
Hi. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are very important to me. I think my experience working in Chicago Public Schools was, for me, a big eye-opener of what students actually think and go through. I worked on the southwest side of Chicago, and they had a bunch of basically white teachers and a few black and maybe a couple Hispanic. The southwest side of Chicago, if you've been there, it's primarily Hispanic and Polish. And as I worked there, the community changed a lot and became more predominantly Hispanic, mostly Puerto Rican and Mexican. And it was just interesting to listen to the students talk about their experiences that, as myself, I didn't encounter as a child. And it made me understand them a little bit more, and meeting their families. And then it was exciting because they would talk about the changes that they go through and their experiences, the food they eat, and you'd have the Polish students share their experiences. So that gave me a way of seeing how different people see things from a child's perspective. I taught in junior high, but I consider them children, they're young, and also working in Chicago as well in an urban setting. When I was a project manager in environmental field, we worked with multiple different clients throughout the city of Chicago in a very diverse range of people and backgrounds. And most importantly, I think for me, I'm a big traveler, and I think I've immersed myself in cultures that some people probably wouldn't want to do. I've been to Thailand, China, all over Europe, and Morocco, and those opportunities, which I'm very fortunate to have, has given me a chance to be able to listen to different people and connect with others.
And your time is up, Caroline.
Experiences.
Thank you. The fourth question. List the top 2 issues you feel the district is facing, and the first person to respond is Jack Elsinger.
Okay, I think that by far the first issue that has to be acted on is to get our schools back to normal just as quickly as we can. Not only have the students been hurt educationally, but there's a tremendous amount of emotional suffering that's gone on at all levels with all the kids. Secondly, interlocking with that, we're going to have to take a very hard look at remediation programs. I think there's going to have to be a lot of that, because even during summer vacation, kids slip in their education. This is much longer and much more severe in so many ways as far as a layoff from education. So we're going to have to see what we can do to bring kids back to their grade levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Next is Rob Mansky.
Just like Jack, I mean, one of the biggest issues that I see is the repercussions of COVID and how it's impacted the district. It has impacted every aspect of student engagement and academic success, every area of the institution. Significant changes to the learning environment, and it's created this uncertainty on all areas. Access to learning has varied, access to student services has changed, student achievement has been impacted. Some students and parents have completely disengaged from the learning process. Employees are stressed, they're concerned, there's all this uncertainty. So the issue is, how do we continue to meet the educational objectives during a time of significant disruption and uncertainty? And how, like Jack said, how do we get our children back up academically once COVID has passed? And how do we support our teachers, our administrators, and our staff through this process as well? Issue number 2 is providing a comprehensive educational experience with limited resources. This goes beyond COVID. How do we create and implement a strategic plan? How do we work with decreasing budgets due to our lower enrollment? How do we work with competing needs, curricular, facilities, human resources, inclusion? How do we recruit and retain excellent staff? And how do we provide competitive salaries and benefits? How does the district prioritize critical needs with limited resources? And how do we connect our budgets to our strategic plan? How do we do outcomes-based priorities and measurable outcomes? On a positive note, I am seeing this within the district. Your strategic plan is connecting the current plans and agendas of your meetings to measurable outcomes. These are 2 very significant issues. I'm sure there are more, but those are the 2 big ones.
Thank you, Rob. Next is Ed Morganroth.
thanks. I'm sorry. Yeah, issue number one, and this has been said, is, how do we go forward? How does the district move forward this semester and in summer and next with the blended learning model, which is, as everybody knows, is part-time in-school learning and part-time online learning, and while still keeping everybody safe. And as we've all seen, the COVID is changing, and while numbers in Wisconsin and I think Portage County are better, the variants are kind of a big unknown, and the vaccine, how that's going to roll out, how fast, still is an unknown. So it's possible that if everything goes well, the district could even, consider moving to fully back to 5-day-a-week traditional in-school learning before the end of the semester or by summer or not. But that's issue number one. And issue number two is then how does the district remediate the various learning, I don't want to say deficiencies, but learning problems and achievement problems that have been caused by the remote learning and by kids and families' challenges to adapt to that, and less face time with teachers and with administrators and counselors and fellow students. So how can the district develop instructional plans and programs to help with with the slide that's been caused by the COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next is Lisa Richter.
I think you guys are going to get a lot of similar answers related to this question, because I think there's a lot of agreement amongst the candidates, and I'm sure with the school board members, as well as the employee, teacher group, and administration, is how do we have effective long-term planning to bring back where learning should be for our students, and the discrepancies related to that slide that's happened due to COVID and the pandemic. I think that's affected so many people, not only our students, but the parents that have had to take on the teaching roles, and how to support them, and effective collaboration between the district and the parents out of the community, those community stakeholders that are so important, that have had to take over the teaching of their children. It's great that we have gotten back to somewhat a semblance of a learning model, but that long-term planning is a big issue that I know that the district will be facing. Another area that I feel is an issue is effective collaboration and communication between the district administration and the teacher group, making sure that we're working together for that collective efficacy. The teachers are out there in the classroom doing their best to help those children kind of bridge and make gains in those gaps that have happened, and making sure that we connect with the teachers and ask their opinion, and they're involved in the process in those big decision-making things that happen with changes that are made. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Next is Ron Blaha.
Okay, well, obviously the COVID virus has had an impact with every aspect facing the district. But the two top issues, considering or not considering COVID, would be the importance of the district's budget and financial controls, and the importance of maintaining and supporting the district staff, teachers, and students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Next is Jackie Stroik.
Well, obviously, the impacts of COVID to the school system are the most critical problem going on right now. But the problem that I had wanted to talk to you about more is, something that's been long going on. I talk to teacher friends and relatives that I have, and especially around parent-teacher conference time. And they always say that the parents they see are the parents of the kids who are doing well. And if the parents are the kids who are not doing as well or who are doing poorly, their parents don't show up. And I think that to support those kids, I think that we really need to try to reach the parents and get those parents engaged with their children's education and having them support education in their homes by giving the kids time to study and asking about homework, and just basically engaging the parents with their kids' education from young on, so that those kids don't suffer in the long run with poor education because they've never had it modeled or have anybody supporting them.
Thank you, Jackie. Next is Alex Nelson.
Thanks. I think that our top issue right now is actually one of diversity and inclusion. I know that this is something that the district is working at improving, but when we talk about preparing our students to be successful and to be part of a global future, I think that they need to be enriched with a curriculum that's going to expose them to diverse cultures and ideas. I'll give you kind of a recent anecdote. Like all parents, my kids were home e-learning in December, and throughout that time, one of my kids heard a lot about Christmas, but essentially nothing about any other holiday that time of year. And now, in the spectrum of diversity and inclusion, talking about other holidays is a pretty low bar to kind of cross when we're talking about culture and diversity. But if we're not kind of even taking that step, I think it shows, just how far we have to go in order to address that concern. The other issue that I think is important is one about developing and retaining teaching staff. I have a lot of respect for the teachers in the district. They have a challenging role in addressing the needs of all of our students. I know from my own experience that there are a lot of factors that go into development and retention and attracting quality staff. So as we kind of work towards making those changes and work towards improving ourselves, I want to make sure we're recognizing and appreciating the work that our teachers are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Next is Jennifer Bushman.
So this is a good question. It was a tough question, and I took some time to really reflect on what I felt the top two issues were that the district is facing. I don't like to work in a vacuum, and I do appreciate other lenses and diversity of thought. So I reached out to a few teachers and staff to check in with them, using that outside-in perspective to gauge their thoughts and see if they were closely aligned to mine, and they were. So a couple of challenges rose to the top of the list. You've heard one of them already, which is COVID. So COVID, as it relates to the implications that it creates with planning and all that's surrounded with that, and the unknown regarding what's next with the pandemic, legislation, and how that may impact our options for how our children will learn and when and how they go to school, and most prominently, how COVID has impacted our kids' emotional well-being. And how do we help kids that are behind due to the loss of live instruction from the pandemic? And the second one that rose to the top of the list is really centered on morale. So morale around teachers and staff. So really thinking about what can the district do to boost morale? What resources are readily available for our teachers and staff? How do we help them be their best? Because their energy is contagious. And we know that it's closely linked to outcomes in the classroom and even us retaining good teachers. And so in a year rocked by the pandemic, teachers and staff are trying to keep their heads above water. And we know that teacher well-being is intrinsically linked to student well-being. And so this will continue to be a challenge for some time. And this challenge is top of mind for me. And I hope I'm able to serve on the school board to help in this arena.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next is Cash Cook.
Yeah, COVID seems to be the running topic here. My biggest thing coming out of the COVID era is that, I hope that everybody is getting as close to the best education that they possibly can get. I realize that it's not going to happen for everyone, but if we can at least stay current with it and help bring up those people that were lagging during this time, I think it'll be better for everyone. I think the second thing, And granted, I don't pay much attention to what's going on around me, but I think the biggest thing would be like the future, or what the future plans for the district are. You know, you see a lot of political and societal changes that are going on that kind of put their sphere of influence on schools and organizations and things of that nature. And I think the best thing for the district is, you know, the people representing the district making the decisions. I don't think that all those outside groups need to make a decision for the school. I think the people that are in charge of the school district and the people within the district are the ones that are able to make the best decisions for them.
Thank you, Cash. Next is John Sikosh.
I agree with the majority of the candidates here that the COVID is certainly the top of the list, or very near the top for most of us. Both of my top two issues fall under the category of the COVID crisis. One is the educational response, and the second is the administrative. First, the educational one, and the impact on the teachers, if I can add, parents and teaching staff. It's important to restore, as most of you have indicated, normality to the classroom and to family life. Many times we forget about the family life and just focus on the school day. We need to evaluate the impact the COVID crisis has had on the teachers and students, on the students specifically, academically, socially, and psychologically. This will require the input of parents, obviously, teachers, and the professional staff. It is important to assess the impact of the crisis on the quality of education. This will help us minimize the negative effect of the shutdown and the remote learning. The second issue is responding administratively. I believe that we should evaluate the impact on staff members as well as students. We need to create a response team to develop the necessary resources to deal with the present crisis. Not only the present crisis, but also to create a team and create a PIP, what I call a plan in place to deal with any future similar situations. And finally, we need to take advantage of resources made available through the government and the private sector to accomplish these goals. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next is Christina Smith.
So I wanted to start off by, again, agreeing with the vast majority of candidates about the COVID-related gaps. But I also want to say thank you to everybody that's in the room right now, and the rest of the school board and the teachers, and everybody who's had to turn on a dime and be really thoughtful and inclusive and trying their best to figure out a go-forward path to make sure that we had something available, right? There were bumps in the road, sometimes things had to change, but there was always thoughtful, caring people trying to make those decisions in the best interest of everyone. The reason I say this is because me and my family are in a unique situation, and thankfully, hopefully unique, in that I lost my stepmom due to COVID in April. We learned really quickly how serious this was, and probably made our decisions a little bit too cautious, but we made our decisions based on how we realized things being serious. So not only is there going to be gaps as far as education, but there's going to be social emotional gaps, not just with my family, but any family who's now experienced loss associated with COVID. So I want to say thank you. The second challenge, not to belabor the point about COVID, is that we're having a referendum that's expiring. There's going to be budget-related challenges associated with that, as well as everything else piled on top of trying to catch people up from the COVID-related educational gaps. So that's definitely a long-term strategic plan that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Next is Miguel Campos.
Thank you. I think everybody prior to me covered a great deal about the COVID, and I'm in that camp as well. I think the reinstatement of classes is an important thing to consider moving forward, and how we approach that given the different views and opinions on the COVID and the pandemic itself, and how that transition looks for the parents, for the students, and of course for faculty and teachers. And not just the transition back to school, but just the transition back to normalcy. As a father of two younger kids, how does this, affect them emotionally and socially long term, when now they're used to wearing masks everywhere, used to, seeing signs for sanitation everywhere, and having dots and arrows point them in the right directions. No one knows right now what kind of long-term effects this could have on them socially and mentally, but it's something that needs to be carefully considered and monitored on a continuous basis we don't really know how long. Given how long this pandemic has lasted so far and how long it looks like it's going to last, people's lives have entirely changed. People have formed entirely new lives and entirely new habits. And this all needs to be carefully considered on either side of people's opinions when we look at putting together a plan to get everybody back to school, and what that looks like and how that looks and in what time frame. That's all I really have to say on the COVID and the pandemic, but I think it is an extremely important matter to consider. And then the second thing that I had was just the increasing importance of technology, learning, and integration in the school system, and how that looks. If COVID has taught us anything as far as technology goes, people who didn't adopt it prior and were definitely against technology and all the different facets that means, we all were forced to adapt it immediately and entirely. And what does it look like moving forward in the school system, not only just for how people interact, but how we integrate technology as we see its importance.
Thank you, Miguel. Your time is up. Elizabeth Heimlich.
Hello. One more for the COVID response. I also have to give you my very most appreciation for how you've been handling this. My granddaughters, I think, are doing well with the system that you have set up. It seems like they're handling it, and I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate it, and I'm very, very thankful every day that I don't have to deal with it. I don't know how the teachers do it. So that is your short-term problem of the school board right now. Everyone knows that. Long-term, I think, probably has been exasperated by this pandemic, because I think one of the issues is the retaining and attracting of teachers. And I understand that there's been some more retiring, and it's been ongoing since Act 10, but I think that that's one of the challenges that needs to be addressed. And that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next is Caroline Scaccia.
Hi. I think one of the issues that the district is facing is just stronger engagement with the community, keeping us connected and all the stakeholders, having ongoing conversations, using a variety of communication channels, whether that's formally or informally. I do feel this year, and under the COVID umbrella, there is a little bit of a disconnect when you speak to the teachers versus emails from the district. So I would like to see something happen there where we open those lines of communications and include the parents who are not surprised with certain things, and the teachers. Also, the second point, I think, is getting kids on track is very much needs to be a priority. As a sub in the district, I see it as, like Elizabeth had mentioned, there is a shortage of subs. It's very hard to get substitute teachers right now. But as a substitute teacher, I do notice, I see it for myself, huge gaps. It's not equitable right now. And that's because of the pandemic. So getting them back on track, and how do we have them meet in the middle? Because there is a huge divide right now within the classrooms, because you have the parents home, some are very engaged and some not at all, and it's very apparent, and it's pretty startling and eye-opening. Also, as a supervisor with my student teachers, I'm reading the reflections, and they're saying the same thing. So it's something we're going to have to address, and we're going to have to figure out if we're going to continue a blended model like we have now. We have to make those decisions. And I think that listening to everybody, I think this is such a great opportunity for the district to recalibrate and use all these people sitting before me have all these contributions and unique talents that I think it's exciting for a time for us to recalibrate and strengthen. And I think it will be critical to the success of our district.
Your time is up. Thank you, Caroline. And the last person to answer this question is Carrie Prokop.
Another one for COVID, but a slightly different take, although I agree with everybody. I believe that with part of this catching up means that we have lots of students behind, and yet the state is still requiring testing. And from the testing, we get report cards for the schools and the districts, and then we get funding. And that would be my second issue, would be not that the Stevens Point School District looks like it has glaring funding issues. I just know that all school districts are not funded well to support everything they want to do. That's it.
Thank you, Carrie. As the moderator, I'm going to take the liberty of calling for a 5-minute break. And I ask of you that have technology, please don't turn anything off. 5 minutes is 5 minutes. I have on my cell phone is 8:36, so we're going to be back here at 8:41. And those that are not a part of the interview and are simply listening, we have 3 more questions. Please note that the last 2 questions should be relatively brief. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.